been challenging. It's not all rainbows and butterflies. But yeah, thank God for more than 10 years now, I've been a full-time artist, and my work continues to grow and evolve, and the ideas get bigger and bigger. And really, the more I grow as an artist, the more I'm blown away in what the Rebbe saw in me.
Welcome to Ordinary People with Extraordinary Stories. I'm Chana Weisberg, host of this podcast. Joining me today, we have a great guest. His name is Yitzchok Moully. And if you look closely in his background, you might guess exactly what it is. He is a pop artist. He's a great artist, and I love his art. It's really beautiful, vibrant, colorful, imaginative, creative, out of the box. Love it. And I wanted to hear about the story behind the man. So thank you so much for joining us, Yitzchok Moully.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. It's an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you. Okay, so tell us how you became the famous Chassidic pop artist. Let's start at the beginning of your story.
Ordinary people, extraordinary stories. It is an extraordinary story, and I very much am an ordinary person. The story goes way back. The story actually begins in Darwin, Australia. I was born in Darwin, Australia, which is the official capital of nowhere.
And Darwin
it's so far off the beaten track that even till today, there is no Chabad center in Darwin. Oh, wow. So you can imagine Chabad of Rara does send boys there definitely for Pesach and maybe some of the other major holidays. But other than that, till today, there is almost no Jewish presence in Darwin. Of course, you'll ask, so what are we doing there?
Right.
And the answer is my parents.
How far is it from Melbourne or from Sydney?
All the way, top center, 5-hour flight, 6-hour flights, 2-day drive. It's
really
it's the outback. It's the outback of the
far out. From the far out, Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So you were there because you were saying?
Oh, my parents are hippies. And that's where I was born. And my early life, the little that are, the memories, but we lived on a commune. We lived in the outback, really, surrounded by nature, surrounded by like-minded people, not in your standard, school setting, not in your standard community setting. And that could have gone on forever, but God had other plans. And actually, my grandfather, who had emigrated to Australia from Egypt, so my mother and family were born in. My mother was born in Alexandria, Egypt, and in '56, during the Suez Crisis, they became refugees. They got kicked out, and they chose Australia. Wow. So. My grandfather, who from Egypt, had emigrated to Australia, learned a new language and so on. So my grandfather wasn't well, and so he came down from the outback to Melbourne to be with the family. And my grandfather was in and out of hospital, and so we were there. And I was a wild child, to say the least. And now we're here in suburbia in Melbourne, and so I was climbing the roofs and trees and everything. And my mother went to a synagogue, to my grandparents' synagogue, to pray for her father. And she met a Chabad rabbi. She met Rabbi Chaim Cowan, and they started a conversation. And as far as I'm aware, kind of by the end of the conversation, I was enrolled in Jewish day school. I was enrolled in yeshiva college.
Wow. Wait, I just want to ask you: when you were in the outback, did you have friends there? Was it just like nature and you?
Yeah, no, we were on a commune, so there were other people, there were other families, other kids my age. Yeah.
And do you think that because you were so immersed in nature, that's what caused you to become, that triggered your artwork, triggered your artistic taste?
I would say so. Yeah, very much so. I mean, it's a combination of everything, but right. I definitely had a very free childhood, and I think it reflects in a lot of my life.
Okay. So now you're enrolled in this school.
So enrolled in school, and my first day of school was the day my grandfather passed away.
Oh, wow.
And it's as though he was pulling us. He wanted to get us down from the outback, down from wherever, to be in a Jewish community, to be, kind of grounded. And my mother, from that point, she realized she had given me nature, and now she wanted to give me spirituality and Yiddishkeit. Judaism. And so the thought was that's definitely not suburbia. We're not living in Melbourne. We can't go back to the outback. So where in the world could we be? We could have our love of nature together with our love of Judaism. And the answer was a religious kibbutz in Israel, to go to Israel.
That
And
makes
again,
sense.
to be, surrounded by nature and find the right community and perfect.
That's a
So we
nice choice.
gathered, we saved paperwork. I don't know. I wasn't involved in all of that, but and then we set off to Israel, and divine providence would have it, or the airlines would have it, that we flew, instead of flying through Asia and Europe, we flew through North America. We flew, Los Angeles. We were in LA for 10 days, and we were in New York. We were in New York for 10 days. Now, we didn't know anybody, but we knew people who knew people who knew people who knew the Chabad network. And we were hosted by a wonderful family, by the Torog family in Crown Heights for 10 days. So we're there, and this is the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, 1985. I was about 5 years old or so, and we're there. We're there for 10 days, and it was wonderful. And during that time, someone said to my mother, write a letter to the Rabbi, get a blessing for your continued journey. You're off to, you're on a journey. You're off to kibbutz in Israel. Get a blessing. So my mother did. My mother wrote to the Rabbi, and the response that we got was, stay here for the time being and accomplish what you're here to accomplish through friends. And we stayed, and we stayed, and we stayed, and we stayed. We stayed for 4.5 years, which is a tremendous amount of time. And my mother thought at the time was for her to get remarried. That didn't happen. New York is kind of the center of a lot of things. And in hindsight, it was my chinuch, it was my Jewish upbringing. And it really was incredible.
I'm just wondering, I mean, this is such a change from the outback, to the concrete of New York, of the New York jungle city life. How did your mother take to that change?
We went to Prospect Park as often as we could. Okay. We got out of New York. We went to Morristown as often as we could. We went to the Bronx Zoo and, the whatever beach we could find. My mother definitely was seeking nature wherever appropriate. We had lots of plants in the house.
Okay.
So that's
must have been a big change. And what about the change in lifestyle in terms of religion? Like, what was it that what inspired her in Australia to seek out Chabad?
That's a really good question. I think Chabad found her. I think Chabad found us. She went to her parents' shul, an Orthodox shul, a traditional shul in an area called Moorabbin, which is pretty much far out of the outside of the the Jewish enclave, the Jewish community. But there was a rabbi. Right. Speaking at some event, and
and I guess she was very impressed because she agreed to listen to the Rabbi, to the Lubavitcher Rebbe, about staying in Crown Heights, which is quite for 4 years. That's a big change of plan from a kibbutz in Israel or a commune on the outback, right?
Yeah, I highly doubt that day one we knew that it would be 4.5 years.
Right.
But it was just,
it
kept on going, and
right.
I mean, she was determined. It was my chinuch, it was my Jewish education that she wanted. That was part of the reason why we wanted to go to the kibbutz. Was for myself, it's for her as well, but it's for both of us. And we were getting that day by day in Crown Heights. And I remember my mother would bring me to shul, bring me to 770 Chabad World Headquarters on a Shabbat morning, and go to the front steps and say, okay, bye, I'll see you later. I'll meet you on the corner of Kingston and whatever it is. And I'm a resourceful little kid, and I made my way around. And after a little while, I learned that the place to be just before 10 a.m. was all the way in the back of the synagogue, of the main synagogue. And there's two sets of stairs. There's a general set of stairs, and there's a set of stairs that the Rebbe would walk through. And from the Rebbe's office in that internal space. And I learned that right before 10, when you heard that door open, that's the Rebbe coming down into the synagogue. And the kids would gather there. We'd walk into the main shul, huge shul, thousands of people. We go, shh, and that's it. The whole shul would be quiet. The power of these little kids, because of course that's code. The Rebbe's coming. And we would stand on either side. There's a really narrow corridor. Recently I was there. two adults cannot fit shoulder to shoulder in that space. And the little kids, we lined either side of the hallway, and the Rebbe would come through and say, Good Shabbos, Good Shabbos, Good Shabbos, to each one of the children. And the Rebbe would go and daven spiritual prayers, and I'd go play.
Right.
So really, marinated in this culture, in this environment, receiving dollars from the Rebbe, receiving kosher bracha from the Rebbe, sitting underneath the Rebbe's feet at Farbrengens. I would only do that once a year. I do that on my birthday because I knew I didn't have, the patience, the whatever you want to call it, Sitzfleisch,
to sit for so
to
long.
sit, because once you're in for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever it is. So really, it was a huge change from the Outback, or from the original trajectory of my life. But this was a huge change. And after 4.5 years, again, circumstance changed, things got difficult, a lot of technical things, and my mother again wrote to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said, it's time to go home, time to go back to Melbourne. We never quite made it to the kibbutz, we never made it to Israel, but by now we're very much, card-carrying members, if you will, of the Chabad community. So we went back to Melbourne, we joined the Chabad community, I went back to that same school, the Yeshiva College, and life continued as a member of the community. And I actually remember thinking, like, wow, my story's over at 9 years old. That was it. Until then it's interesting, but then the story's over. Right. But I always thought, what did the Rebbe want? Why did the Rebbe choose us? So many people had come through Crown Heights and they got a blessing, they got a dollar, and they continued on their journey. Why did the Rebbe want us to stay for so long? And of course, I continued with yeshiva, 2 years in what's called YG, the Rabbinical College of Australia and New Zealand, another 2 years in Rabbinical College of America. I got my smicha in Venice, Italy, and in typical Chabad fashion, I bounced around the world, helping and visiting all sorts of, wonderful, far-flung Jewish places. And I thought, what did the Rebbe want? Why did the Rebbe choose me? And the only answer I could give myself was that, to be a Chabad rabbi, to share my love of Judaism with others, to invest in me so that I could, share with others. And that was the plan. And I met my wife in Toronto, got married in Toronto, Canada.
Toronto, that's my hometown.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And Rabbi Emmanuel Shachat was our Masada Kedushin. He was he's the rabbi, was the rabbi of my in-laws shul, and we wanted to go on shluchas. When we were dating, I said I did not want to live in Australia, and my wife said she did not want to live in Toronto. And so the world was our oyster. And we ended up in a little town in New Jersey on shluchas as Chabad emissaries, being the youth directors in Basking Ridge, New Jersey, small town in New Jersey. And there we were. This was it. I thought I was, living out my dream, reaching, this is the potential of everything that I could do, and sharing my love of Judaism with others.
And then what changed?
And yes.
What changed?
I'm still a child of hippies.
We're seeing the artwork behind you.
Yes. So there is more to the story. Right. Still a child of hippies. I never called myself an artist. I never identified as an artist, but I was a creative, and I was into creativity and the ideas of creativity. And started with photography. I was all into photography. And then when the first digital camera came out, digital SLR, and so many photos, and it evolved. And then I discovered this process called silkscreen, where you could take your photos and kind of turn it into a piece of art. And that was the first thing. And I made my first piece, which was 6 inches by 6 inches. And then it got bigger and more, and started showing. I found a gallery in New Hope, Lambertville. They dubbed me rabbi by day, artist by night, because that's what it was. I was doing my rabbinical duties, way more than 9 to 5, but I was involved in, everything that we were involved in the community. And I came home, and kids and dinner at bedtime, and then I'd go to the basement to paint. And everything was wonderful, hitting all the symbols, until I realized that there was an imbalance.
Did you have any formal education in art, or no?
No. I'm still making it up as I go along.
Right. Okay. Great.
Yes,
so there was an imbalance.
There was an imbalance, and all my emotional energy was going towards the arts, and I was doing my job, but it wasn't the same. And I realized I couldn't do both. It got to the point I couldn't do both. And so I turned to my mentor, I turned to my rabbi, and I asked, like, maybe I should stop painting. I mean, it's getting in the way of the rabbi stuff. Like being a rabbi, sharing Judaism with others, that's important. Painting, creating, that's my expression. We all have to make sacrifices, and that's a sacrifice. Perhaps that's a sacrifice I need to make. And what he told me really changed my life. What he told me was the question isn't should you paint or not. The question is, how do you take the gifts that God gave you and impact the world in a meaningful way? And it took a long time. And there was a lot of doubts, a lot of questionings, a lot of soul searching. And long story short, I'm no longer a youth rabbi in Basking Ridge. Someone else is doing that job, and they're doing an incredible job. And now I'm a full-time artist.
Wow.
And really, to go full circle, I think this is what the Rebbe saw in that 5-year-old child running around 770. That the if we call it the investment that the Rebbe made in my life, the impact that the Rebbe changing the trajectory of my life wasn't, I won't say just, but not just to be a Chabad rabbi, but to do what I can do in my very unique way that nobody else can do. And we talk about in Judaism, there's different ways of categorizing mitzvot, the commandments, and one way to categorize it is a mitzvah that you can outsource. There are certain mitzvot you can outsource. It's parents' responsibility to educate their children. You can outsource them to a school. You can hire a professional. A brit milah, circumcision, it's the father's responsibility to do the circumcision himself, but every good Jewish mother will make sure that you hire a professional so that they can do the job. And yet there are certain mitzvot that you can't outsource. And in Hebrew, if I will, it's mitzvah she'i efshar lasas aydei acherim. There are certain mitzvahs you cannot outsource. You can't give someone else to do it. That's yours. And my art is my mitzvah she'i efshar lasas aydei acherim. That's the work that I can do through my art, nobody else can do. And the work that everyone does, the work that you're doing, nobody else can do. So, yeah,
did
I'm a
you ever
full-time
have
artist.
Like that was a lot of, it sounds like a lot of courage to leave and to just go into something that was, I mean, it was something that was pulling you, but you didn't know did you know you would succeed in it? Did you know how good you were at art?
No. It took a year. It took a year to really make that decision. And I saw the hand of God in it. I mean, I don't know if we have time for two little details, but I at some point
Sure.
I said, okay, Rebbe, I need a clear answer. I have ideas, but the ideas are going in both directions. And so I said, I'm going to the Ohel. I went to Daven. I said, Rebbe, I need a clear answer when I come out, when I step out. And I went, I prayed, I davened, and I came out, and there were two people that I know a little bit, and they were having a conversation about Jewish art. And I came to join them, and it kind of evaporated. But that was one very clear sign. And another sign is a little bit personal story, but the day that my wife and I got engaged, we had other plans, and then there were no cell phones and whatever. We ended up getting engaged on a Wednesday, and the Torah portion, the chitas of that day, was the beginning of Balak. Chukas Balak was a double parsha, and I knew that my family name is said in the Torah somewhere, but I didn't know where. I never took the time to really notice. And a friend of mine came to our engagement party that night, and he said, "Do you learn chitas yet today?" I said, "No, been a little busy." He says, "You know what it says? It's the words V'hu Yoshev Mimuli, talking about the Jewish people sitting opposite Balak and Bilam, and it's Mimuli, my family name, V'hu Yoshev Mimuli." And it was like the day we got engaged, our whole future is, this, and I saw that as a sign. A year later,
how's that related to art?
It takes a few steps.
Okay.
A year later, our firstborn was born, and it was a Sunday morning, and it was the chitas of Parshas Balak, V'hu Yoshev Mimuli. 2 years later, our second son was born. It was Gimel Tammuz, Sunday morning, and again, V'hu Yoshev Mimuli. So here, it's becoming a pattern, and I start looking at the calendar and every year and what lines up, and I didn't see overt, lining up. And then the year that we agreed that, I'm leaving my position as the youth rabbi there. And so they said, okay, you're going to work till the end of June, and July 1st is the beginning of the new future. What's July 1st? Sunday morning, Parshas Balak, v'hu yoshev mimuli.
Wow. Wow.
So, the universe, God, is
Right.
telling me,
God
okay,
is
this
telling
is
you,
this
give me a
is God.
message.
Yeah,
Wow.
yep, yeah.
Wow.
So it's been hard. It's been challenging. There's it's not all rainbows and butterflies. But yeah, thank God for more than 10 years now, I've been a full-time artist, and my work continues to grow and evolve, and the ideas get bigger and bigger. And really, the more I grow as an artist, the more I'm blown away in what the Rebbe saw in me.
Hmm. What do you think the Rebbe saw in you?
I I'm surprising myself, at some of the ideas, and then being able to execute on some of these ideas. That's, my ideas get grander and grander and grander, and but they're still in the
Give us a
realm of
taste.
reality.
Right. Give us a taste.
So I evolved from silkscreen, from pop art to what I call post pop, and then I got into sculpture and interactive works. You can see a piece behind me is this overflowing cup that starts off
Beautiful.
blank, and then, but the idea is it's an interactive piece. Everyone gets a small cup of paint. There's 10 colors, the plurality potential, the esakochas nefesh, all the spirituality behind it, and everyone shares one thing that they're grateful for in life, and they pour over the top of the cup. And as a whole community does that, it transforms a blank canvas into a beautiful, beautiful cup over here. At the moment, I've evolved, and again, it took many years that this came to be, that I'm making menorahs. I'm making public art menorahs, and huge sculptures. I have a 32-foot, completely unique menorah that design that doesn't exist, till now in the world. So for the last 4 years, I've been making, menorahs. One year I made a touch-sensitive menorah that when everyone touches it, you touch you touch part of the menorah and you complete the circuit to turn on the light, because we need everyone's light. And then when all 8 light up, all 8 are engaged, then it creates a light show, because we need each other's light, and we're a community, and the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So
wow, that's incredible.
lots and lots of ideas to work on, to execute, to do.
So I'm hearing a lot of like Chassidic thought in your work.
Yeah.
Some of you're saying how everyone, all the 10 different parts of the soul, the components of the soul, or you're talking about how everyone's necessary. Like what motivates you when in terms of your Chassidic teachings? Like what teaching inspires you, or what is it that you use in your artwork? How do you draw on your Chassidic background?
Yeah. So there's no one theme that I play with. And ideas come to me. I literally have a laundry list. I worry that I don't have enough days left in my life to complete all my current ideas, let alone the ideas that are yet to come.
So how do ideas come to you? Like, just comes into your head? You just think about it. It comes. You go for a walk. Or...
Different things come. One idea that which is a central theme that I do keep coming back to, is the idea that every mitzvah that we do creates a tremendous impact, an impact on the world. And one particular time that is crystallized is one of my teachers, Rabbi Yossi Paltiel. I love his classes. Whenever I'm driving or painting or doing, I'll try to listen to his classes. And he has a particular.
We actually interviewed him on here, so if anyone wants to watch the previous, he was great. He was fantastic.
Yes,
but he's on here. Yes.
I'm gonna have to watch that. He was on my podcast as well.
Yeah, he's great.
A big fan of his work. But one particular Farbrengen he had was talking about the Rebbe's 10 Mevtzaim, the 10 mitzvah campaigns. And he talked about the history of these campaigns and when the Rebbe released them to the world, and the physical impact that these mitzvahs at critical mass of Jews doing mitzvahs just changed physical phenomena in the world. The most famous one is the 6-Day War, and the first one that encouraging soldiers, every Jew, to put on tefillin, and thousands of people putting on tefillin. When the Rebbe came out with the mitzvah of Shabbat candles, that young women and girls from the age of 3 and up lighting candles. It says that it pushed the war that was supposed to be in Israel outside of Israel, beyond the borders of Israel. And it really sunk in. I mean, this is something that I've learned about a long time, but there is a physical impact that our mitzvahs do, that my mitzvah can have a physical impact. And of course, we can't see it. And so a lot of my work is about exploring this explosion of energy, a mitzvah object, and then this explosion of energy that comes out of it. So I do have a series of all 10 mitzvot. And I created an app. I don't know if you remember, if the listeners remember, there's an app called Pokemon Go. And that through your phone, you could see these creatures, these digital characters, out in the wild, out on the streets and in wherever, but you can only see it through the phone. And you would have to go and collect them and find them and interact with them. And it was a craze. People were running down the streets and driving. And to me, that was like the perfect analogy for spirituality, that with the right lens through your phone, you can see things that you can't see with the naked eye. They're very much there, but you need the right lens to see them. So I created a series of the Rebbe's 10 mitzvah, of these 10 mitzvah campaign, and where you see on one side there's two parallel paintings. One is the mitzvah object with this explosion of energy, and the other side is that same mitzvah object on a blank canvas. And I built an app that is now defunct, that when you hold it over that blank painting, it creates it plays the video of this one being made. So you see that explosion of energy, but you only see it through the app. So that, it happens. Every mitzvah that we do does create an explosion of energy, but we don't always get to see it. So that's one of the concepts that I still keep coming back to. The Hebrew letters being the building blocks of creation are very much one of my things. And at the moment I'm getting into welding, so I have these little fallen letters from another project. So welding letters together, you can see, I don't know if you can see it, it's Am Yisrael Chai, that I took. So I keep on evolving and keep on growing, but the constant is just Judaism and Chassidus in some form or other, and the joy of Judaism.
There's a lot of
colors, joy, excitement. There's a lot of
Well, I was just going to say that there's so much joy and optimism and cheerfulness and almost like a little pride in your face in your paintings, which I love. Which I absolutely love. And I personally am someone who loves colors, so I love the vibrancy of everything that all your paintings. Is that expressing something about your personality? Like, are you always feeling so vibrant and cheerful? And like, does that express itself when you're painting?
You can ask my family about that. I'm not always vibrant and cheerful. I would like to be vibrant and cheerful. I have my downs. But I suppose that's what I strive to. And again, I didn't go to art school, so I didn't learn that colors are passé. I didn't learn that you're not allowed to, you really shouldn't, when highbrow is. I just do. I'm not following anyone's footsteps. I'm not, part of the beauty of art school or learning a particular medium is that you're really good at that medium, but then you start seeing the world through that medium. So one thing that I've kind of, an idea that I've come to is that all expression can be narrowed down to what you say, your subject matter, how you say it, your medium, and then what you do with it afterwards, how you share it with the world. And Simon Sinek, this intellectual or thought, he says that there are three elements that what make an artist, and one of them is that you share your creations with the world. If you're just making it for yourself, then you're a craftsman. But the idea, the act of sharing is part of it. And so it's what you say, how you say it. And a lot of people get kind of, when you learn a medium really well, you see the world through oil paint. And so how you say it kind of defines what you say. And for me, it's what I say, which is Judaism, Chassidus, these ideas. And then I'm just always open for, what I see around the world and go, oh my God, that is a perfect way of sharing this concept, or that's a great way to share that concept. And so I'm not limited by, any particular medium, but there's a learning curve. There's a learning curve to everything.
Sure.
But it's great. It's enjoyable. And, today I'm welding and, working, with engineers on how to, get my menorahs to stand up exactly straight and So it's every day is new, every day is fresh, every day is exciting. Some days
Never
are
gets
frustrating.
boring. Wow.
No, it never gets boring.
Right.
So
What has
yeah,
been what have been people's reaction or feedback to you about your art? Like, and people understand the depth of the concepts? Because it sounds like in the concept there's so much depth, and yet you could just look at it on a very surface level, or you could look far deeper. Do you have like explanations that explain your artwork?
I do. I do. When I have my work up, in a gallery and so on, which I do. I go on tour and take a collection of work with me. It always has a description underneath what the artwork is about, and then I go around the room and talk about the different pieces. I've been thinking for a long time to actually pull out each piece and talk about it on camera. So maybe you've
Mm-hmm.
given me something else to add to my to-do list.
Wow.
Maybe I should actually do that. But yeah, the beauty of it is that
Everyone sees.
beauty's in everyone sees something else. Beauty's in the
Right.
eye of the beholder. Everyone sees different things in it and take different things out of it, and that's great. I mean, you can see the piece up there, which is the same piece up here on my yarmulke, and there's one gentleman, as you
The
can see,
orange
wearing
socks. Oh, I love the
orange
orange
socks.
socks.
Exactly,
So
and
tell us
that's
about that
me.
piece. Tell us about the
Yeah.
piece. It's a piece with a bunch of Hasidic rabbis, all in black, and then one guy whose socks are orange.
Yes.
Right.
And to me, it's the idea that you have to personalize your Judaism. You have to find your own self in your Judaism. And you don't have to be turning around and going in the other direction. God gave all of us the same 613 mitzvot, but you really have to find yourself in your Judaism. And
Mm,
it could be as subtle as orange socks, and it doesn't have to be
mm,
orange socks, of course. And it doesn't have to be an external, what you wear, but find yourself in Judaism. If we're all carbon copies of each other, which the other 12, 11 are, you're doing yourself and your community a disservice. That,
mhm,
as I said earlier, that idea of, mitzvah she'ef shalas et echem, the mitzvah that you cannot outsource. All of us, each one of us, have to find you know, our calling in life, to find our soul and to find the unique expression of our soul and to share it with the world. Because, since creation, there's been a part of creation that hasn't been touched, until me, until us, and there's part of the universe waiting for you and your soul to impact it in a personal, unique, individual way. And so,
and
that's
how do you
all.
think how do you think someone can do that? Like someone who's listening who might be thinking, well, I have a lot of different interests, but not necessarily something that I know is a great talent like you have, this artwork. How can I find that? Or how can I explore it? Or maybe I don't even feel like I have any specific special talent. How can I find my place?
That's a wonderful question, and that's how I end off all my podcasts, asking my guests how for them to, give advice on young creatives to find their orange socks.
Mhm,
But I would say it's deeper than talent. It's not about talent versus not talent. It's your soul. It's
mhm,
it's you're here for a reason. And as the Baal Shem Tov is quoted to say, that perhaps a soul descends for 70, 80 years just to do a physical favor for another, to
mhm,
the proverbial cross a little old lady across the street.
mhm,
And how much more so spiritually, that we're here to impact others. It's not about necessarily finding and broadcasting your talent, even though
mhm,
please do if you have it, and
mhm,
and develop it. Develop your talents and multiple talents and go different places and lean into it. And it's hard, and it's but do it for yourself. Do it for
mhm,
yourself to find your own. Don't do it for the audience. Do it for yourself, and if anyone happens to be watching and listening, then they may be impacted. But no, really, that we're here to impact others. We're here to touch
mhm,
other people. Just to smile, at the
mhm,
UPS driver,
mhm.
to lift someone else up, in
And
all possible ways, and it evolves.
mhm. Right. I guess once you start, it just keeps coming. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
when you started, you didn't really realize what the impact. I mean, you probably started one day just drawing or just
I was.
painting,
Yeah, I was just having fun. I mean, photography. I was just taking photos for
photography.
myself, of my
Right.
family. Yeah, that's where my creativity started. Again, I didn't think of myself as an artist, at
Mhm.
all.
Mhm.
Actually, little me, I remember in elementary school not wanting to doodle in the side columns in the margins of my books because older me would be critiquing younger me
Oh,
of
wow.
the work that I did. So like, yeah, I didn't see myself as an artist at all. I didn't paint. I didn't draw.
Do you find that
But
you're self-critical now when you do your artwork? Are you a
yeah,
perfectionist?
absolutely. Well, not perfectionist, but I'm definitely very self-critical. There are some pieces that I love, and there are some pieces that I'm very happy to, send them on their way and get them out of the studio and move on to the
Right.
next.
Right. And
Yeah,
and and how could someone who is self-critical stop that voice from stopping them?
I tell myself no one will ever see it.
Mm,
No one will ever see that little thing that I think isn't perfect. And to quote another wonderful Jewish soul, I'm blanking on his name. Just ship it. I'll come with it. I'll come back with his name. But just do it and get it out. And the next round will be a little bit better, and the round after that will be a little bit better. Just ship it.
mhm.
And I'm
That's a good
getting upset
that's
with
a
myself. I can't think of his name.
That's
It'll come to
okay.
me.
No, it's okay. Just
Um,
ship it. Yeah, just
just
keep
do,
doing it.
just keep doing it. It's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. And then the other
Mhm,
side, with AI and everything else, perfection is not what we're striving for. That's not
mhm.
it still needs to be personal. It's still, if you get rid of all the brush strokes, then there's less personality. So yeah,
Well, now
just
now that
just
you brought up
do.
AI, do you feel that AI is taking over from artwork?
It is, and I don't keep up with it enough. I should. There's definitely many tools that you can use, but I I don't see AI doing what I'm doing. both
Mhm,
both in the physical making the physical menorahs, but AI, you put in a bunch of inputs and then you get back what you put in.
mhm,
Um, you know, I actually had, if we can talk about the creative process,
mhm.
according to Hasidus, which
Well,
also I
yeah,
I
I was
got.
gonna ask you also, like, why do you think artwork is so, powerful? What do you think is the power in art?
Art art speaks to people again in ways that nothing else can, and art is it's feeling. It's
Mhm,
feeling. It's not thinking, and it touches everyone differently. And there's some pieces of art you can walk by and go meh, or that's
mhm,
pretty. And there are other pieces of art that you can like, wow, you can be
mhm,
really taken by. And when I evolved from pop art into abstracts was I walked into a gallery in the Distillery District downtown Toronto, and I was met by this huge painting in the gallery of just an explosion of energy, and it took
mhm,
my breath away. I'm like, I need to do that. I need to be able to do that, to just express myself through color and splash and vibrancy without any words, without any,
mhm.
and eventually I did. And so for me, the titles were really what gave it the meaning. And once you had the title, then you could see what I was trying to communicate. But without
Mm.
the title, it's just this powerful piece. Um, and it's an abstract piece on its own. It talks for itself, and then with the title and the description, then it grounds it.
It
So I mean, I
grounds
have
it.
a piece titled 40 years in the desert.
Mm.
So you can see that's the and I have another piece titled Monday morning 9 a.m. And it's just chaos. It's just absolute chaos. And really, that was supposed to be the background for a piece about Shabbat. And I just love the background so much that I kept it. And it's one of my favorite pieces. And it's about chaos, but it's not about abstract chaos. It's about life. It's about Monday morning 9 a.m. and sitting down and doing, and and finding yourself and doing,
Mm.
in whatever way we can. And as sloppy and as messy it is, that's what it is. So yeah,
So
I
so you
continue
were
to evolve. And
you were starting to walk us through the process, like the Hasidic process of art.
yeah. So I searched for it, learning Chassidus and what Chassidus does have to say about the creative process. And I went through the process myself, and I was blown away by it itself. Not always, does this full step happen to me, but so what I learned from Rabbi Yossi Paltiel in his in-depth shiurim on Tanya, that in chapter 3 of Tanya, it talks about the Eser Kochas HaNefesh, the 10 capacities of the soul, and it starts with Chabad. The acronym for Chabad is Chachma, Bina, and Dat. So what is Chachma? So it's translated as wisdom, but what does it really mean? Chachma, if you break up the letters, is Koach Ma. The Koach, the capacity, the tool of Ma, of what? And the way he describes it is that you hit an impasse. This idea, and it could be in art, it could be in science, it could be in any area, that you're working on a concept and an idea, and you're working and you're working and you're trying and until you hit a brick wall, until you hit an impasse, and you keep trying. And at some point you say, Ma. At some point you say, I don't know. And it's not an I don't know of a child giving up on their homework. Oh, I don't know. It's a deep bittul. It's a deep self-nullification. It's a deep, I don't know. There's wisdom out there and I don't know it. I know there's an answer to this problem, but I don't have it. And that ability to let go, that ability to the koach ma. And then shortly thereafter, and that can happen in the shower, it can happen on a walk, it can happen, you get this flash of lightning, this idea, this spark. And really the way he described it is that it's your nefesh, your chaye yechida talking to your nefesh ruach neshama. It's the upper elements of your soul. It's your subconscious talking to your conscious and giving you this idea. And the greater you worked on that impasse, the greater that flash of lightning. And that's chachma. That's really what chachma is. And then bina is developing it, taking that concept and then working and doing it. And it can take a lifetime to bina-ize a single idea. And to develop it and to really bring it to the world, that it's not just some abstract thought, but it's, here it is, like here's the finished piece. And dat, just to finish it off, is that connection, that how it's not just, oh, that's an idea, okay, put on the shelf, move on to the next, but it's actually to live with this concept, live with this idea, and where like it really means something to you. And when I went on this process, it was a Tuesday morning. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was still serving as a rabbi. And on Tuesdays, I had time to paint, and I would go to this class. It was titled Art with a Master, and everyone just painted. Everyone did their own thing, and he would walk around and critique and share. And I'm sure you remember that the terrorist attack in Har Nof. In Har Nof is a suburb of Jerusalem, and a group of Jews gathered to pray their morning services, and they were butchered to death. 2 Arabs came in with cleavers and knives, and it was a horrendous scene. And North America is behind Israel. We woke up to this news, and it touched me so deeply. I felt I needed to paint this painting, that time goes on and things go down. I wanted to remember this and to hold on to this. And I called the rabbi and said, can I take a talus and can I rip it and essentially recreate the scene? And he said, yes, as long as the corner fringes are intact, you can rip the body of the talus again in a respectful way. The ideas behind it is respectful, but to recreate the scene. And I did. I painted it flat and I recreated the scene, and I looked at it and it was complete. It's not beautiful by any means, but it really spoke, and and everyone who sees it, they feel, and either they know it exactly, but they know what's going on there. And I was like, I'm done. Okay, this is done. And then I looked to my right, and there was more pieces of the talus. There were more pieces that, the ripped talus. And in that moment, I said, I have to make another painting that's a positive and uplifting painting with that same piece of talus, because we get knocked down, but this is not our whole story, that we rise up again and we continue and we move on. And so I knew that I needed to make another painting with this talus that's positive and uplifting, but I didn't know what. But I knew I had to make it, but I didn't know what. And I'd try and I'd think, and and I'd go on show and I'd share this one painting and say, I have a piece of talus and I need to make it. And I don't know what. And the first yahrzeit, the first anniversary of this terrible massacre happened, and I felt like such a fraud. I felt like such like, and then I gave up. I gave up, and then again, an event that I'm sure you and your listeners remember is Ariel Beagle and Sarah Litvin were getting ready to get married. And the Thursday before her wedding, her father and brother were driving to the weekend ceremonies, and they were brutally murdered on the road, father and brother. And miraculously, her younger sister was sitting in the back seat and she survived. And so here they are. Here she is, days before her wedding, and she's mourning the loss and burying and sitting Shiva, her father and brother. And she said the most powerful words. She said, we're not going to let these animals take away our joy. The wedding is going on. And she said, Am Yisrael is invited to my wedding. The Jewish nation is invited to my wedding. And we did. Communities across the world made a raffle. Everyone put in $50. Someone's name got pulled out, and that money was enough to pay for their ticket to go to Israel and to celebrate. They did it in the biggest convention space in Jerusalem. And they told people, you have 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes to get in, to dance, get out, because there's a whole line behind you. And across Israeli society, everyone put down their differences, and everyone came. And in the streets, they were dancing, and they were dancing, and they were dancing. Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. Just repeating it. And I realized that's my second painting. That's it. So it took me some time, and it's a piece of a bride and a groom, Ariel and Sarah, under their chuppah. And the chuppah is made of I have it right here. The chuppah is made of that piece of talus, and it's ripped, and it's got red on it. And they're surrounded by light, but they're surrounded by darkness, and it's that interplay. And I realized, in that moment, that's my final. That's part two. That's my piece. That's the creative process. And
well, that's beautiful.
Not always. Sometimes ideas just drop in, but according to Chassidus, like, this is the creative process. And again, creativity takes on many forms, and creativity it has many ways, and there's evolutions of ideas and many different things. But what is Chachma and Bina and Das? The fact that it touches me like this, that's Das.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you get so involved with all your paintings, with all your artwork? Do you get so emotionally involved?
No, I wouldn't say everything. No. I mean, there's a lot of joy, there's a lot of fun, and fun, you could say, is light. But no, pieces do. I want it to have meaning. I'm trying to communicate something. Some pieces don't communicate anything other than just it's joy, and it's great to be alive. It's great to be a Jew. I have an October 7th memorial concept that I created. I was invited by a synagogue somewhere to create. It hasn't come to life yet, but again, it's.
You're waiting for that process.
I'm waiting for that. Well, it's on my web. No. I have the piece. The concept. The concept is there. Where the rendering of it and me talking about it is on my website. But it hasn't come to life. It doesn't physically exist. It only exists, in my imagination and as a rendering. But please God, at the right time with the right partners, it'll be, a permanent sculpture, a memorial to.
Wow.
October 7th, to the victims, and so on.
What does your wife think about your artwork?
What does my wife think about my artwork? A whole lot of things, She tells me, and she's right, that my identity is caught up in my work. And when pieces that I put a whole lot of effort into are received, then I live another day. I'm happy. When I work so much on something and it's not about clicks and views. It's about, I'm creating it to share. I really create what I want to create. I don't test the market and see what's out there. But if things resonate, this overflowing blessings cup is it resonates with people. The orange socks resonates with people. This is part of my shofar series every year. Rosh Hashanah afternoon, Erev Rosh Hashanah afternoon. My wife loves it. I create a new shofar painting of, we talk about on Rosh Hashanah that when we blow shofar, the first day of Rosh Hashanah, it brings a new energy of God to the world. So every year I try to depict that new energy. And this year is a shofar, an IDF soldier. And if you can see very clearly, I'm not sure if you can see, is instead of just energy, it's actually psukim, it's verses of the, that verses connected to the shofar that we read on Rosh Hashanah, and then verses connected to the sanctity of the land, and God's eyes are on the land, and Am Yisrael Chai, and so on. So my wife loves my work, but my wife loves when my work is well received, so that I still have a smile on my face, so I can keep on going. So yeah.
Are your children still young?
Some. My oldest is 21.
Oh, wow. Are
I
any
get
of
asked
them?
the question, exactly.
Are they artistic? Yeah.
They're all creative in their own right. One is loves cooking, and could end up as a private chef, as a chef somewhere. They all create and paint, in their own way. They know they have free reign of the studio. They're welcome to come and take. When they were little, it was, you can look but you can't touch. Now that they've gotten older, a lot of them come with me. I do a lot of interactive events, creating big murals, with schools, with communities. So they come with me. They're my little assistants. We do work, in interactive engagement to Chabad on campus, and a whole lot of different. So yeah, they're part of the team. They all get their Moully art shirt. So it's more than just me. It's a family business, if you want, not as a business, but and actually one of my very proud moments is that for one of these overflowing cups, there was a Chabad on campus somewhere that were doing a challah bake, and they wanted a female presenter, and my wife wasn't available. Sometimes she goes, and so my 17-year-old daughter flew out to North Carolina by herself, set up all the technicals, ran the whole thing, spoke, shared, got on a plane, and went back to school. So kids are
how do you think parents could encourage their children to be more creative, or how did you encourage yours?
The thing about creativity is there's no metrics that this is right and this is wrong. There are no we passed, we failed, or as a teacher sharing our how do you define that this was successful, this wasn't? And if you take that whole metric out of it, then it's just come, let's create, let's do something. It's not about a product at the end. It's not about we must, if it's all about that product in the end, then really perhaps it's not art. Art is an expression of the soul, and it's sloppy and it's messy and it goes different places. And sometimes I know where I want to get to, but I don't know how I'll get there. Sometimes, I don't know where I'm going or how I'm going, but I just have an idea, and things develop and grow as they go along. So we have to give ourselves space, and we also have to give children space. And children, it's harder for an adult. I don't know who said it. Picasso said it, that all children are born creative. All children are born as artists. All children are born as geniuses. I don't know whatever he said. And
but
then
we stifle it, right?
Life, school, beats that out of us. So thank God I didn't learn very much in school. I stayed an artist. So try to encourage my children, and let it be sloppy.
Do you have any advice for aspiring artists other than ship it?
Be gentle with yourself, and at the same time be demanding. And I know that deadlines are, some of the greatest things, that ever happened to me. At the same time, you got to be gentle. So, if you have a practice that you have to create every day, then inevitably you'll get better. And what you create during that day, it could be anything. There was 1 year that I created, I got the idea from another artist, but I called it Abstract Omer. That was when I was going through my abstract phase. And again, according to Kabbalah, there's the colors of the Sfirot, of the seven, the Sfirot Omer is 7 times 7. The first 7 of Chesed Gvur Tveres, and so on. And so each color is connected to each one of these. So each day is one times chesed of chesed, chesed of gvura, and so on. So there's a combination, a 2-color combination for each of these 49 days, and there's an idea behind it. So I gave myself the task. I bought a whole lot of 12 inches by 12-inch canvas, and every day I had to paint another painting for that night using those colors and using what I could learn about that interplay between those two elements. And this is a long time ago, but and then I'd take a photo of it, I'd write a little bit, and I'd put it on what was Facebook at the time. That was, and by 11:30 p.m., if I didn't have that piece out, friends were like, I gotta go to sleep. Where is it? I want to see it. Right. Or the next morning, and that really pushed me. I didn't have the luxury of I'm not in the mood today, and so doing something like that. But at the same time being gentle, that's okay, this is the best I could do today. So that balance.
Right.
And again, going back to the beginning, is that if this really is what God wants of me, if this really is my shlichus, if this really is what the Rebbe, invested in me way back then I have a responsibility. So as I speak, I talk about the idea of opportunity and responsibility. And that's it. All of us have the opportunity and the responsibility to find our soul and to share it with the world.
Right. Beautiful. Really beautiful. Your life story is really incredible, and what you've accomplished with your amazing talent, with the things that are just yours, is really beautiful. My last question to you: when someone looks at your art, what message would you like them to see?
I want them to feel. I would like them to feel their Judaism. I'd like them to feel their neshama. And different pieces should be felt in different ways. If it's the Har Nof piece, which is, I've done a number of pieces that, the word isn't celebrate tragedy at all. I'm at a loss for the right word, but to mark tragedy, to recognize the darkness, and then a lot of it is about the light. So it's to feel, really to feel, and to feel with your neshama, to feel that joy of Judaism, to feel your place in the world, to feel and then to do something about it.
Beautiful. Yitzchok Moully, thank you so much for joining us, and continued success in your beautiful work and creating.
Amen.
and in your ideas and in your executing your glorious ideas. We really are, I'm sure, even more greater things are going to come. Thank you so much for joining us.
To be continued.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. It's always great to listen to somebody who actualizes their talents and actually has a vision for what they can do and then makes it happen. And that was what I found so beautiful with this interview with Yitzchok Moully. He made it clear over and over. His point was that a person should do what they were created to do and what only they were created to do. So each of us has a purpose and a mission and something that is uniquely us. And we need to find that part of ourselves and really express that part of ourselves, whether it be through just doing a kindness to another person or finding a talent that we have in whatever way. And I think that was really a great message for all of us to take home. That was, of course, his message in the orange socks, his famous painting with the orange socks of the rabbi with the other rabbis who are all dressed in black, and how he sees himself as just finding that unique mission for which he was created. I loved how he expressed the work that he was doing with the beautiful menorahs, the public menorahs, how he was doing that medium to make these beautiful, large, huge menorahs to light up the world. But I loved how he expressed how what he really wants people to take from his artwork is just this feeling of connecting to their Judaism, connecting to the joy of Judaism, and connecting to their neshama, to their soul and who they are. It was quite clear, when he broke down at that, talking about the Har Nof attack and how it so personally affected him, and how he made that positive, that joyous celebration so much after with the celebration of that wedding, how that continuation of his artwork from the sadness to one of celebration, using the tallis that he had originally started with, and how he was so emotionally connected to it that he actually broke down in tears so many years later with it. It's clear that he is so emotionally connected to what he is doing and his mission of really creating that positivity in our world and creating that connection in our world and creating that joy of Judaism that we should all feel in our world. If you enjoy watching these interviews, I hope that you are subscribed to Chabad.org/extraordinary. I hope you're watching us as well on YouTube. We're getting a nice following there. So if you are watching there, please make sure you are subscribed to our channel. Give us a like there. Share us what you'd like to hear. We love to watch your to listen to your comments, to read your comments, either there and on Chabad.org. And we love hearing from you. We love hearing from you what you like to see, what you've enjoyed watching, and why it has made an impact on you. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this extraordinary community.